Hey, good afternoon, friends and colleagues. I'm Rob Kubik, your OSPA Awards Committee Chair. It's my great pleasure today to help recognize OSPA's 2022 Ohio School Psychologist of the Year. The purpose of this award is to recognize one school psychologist each year who provides outstanding service delivery within the practitioner realm. It is required that at least 75% of a candidate's time be spent providing school psychological services to students, teachers, and parents, typically in a school setting. Nominees must be OSPA members and are nominated by their regional association. Our recipient is then advanced as Ohio's nominee for NASP recognition as the National School Psychologist of the Year. It is my great pleasure to introduce our 2022 Ohio School Psychologist of the Year, Dr. Erich Merkle. Erich, could you please come forward? I know a lot of you know Dr. Merkle, so settle in for a second here, okay? Erich was nominated for several reasons, including his outstanding characteristics as a school psychologist practitioner, his unique contributions to our profession, and lauded activities that distinguish him among his peers. There are many reasons that underlie Erich's earning this recognition, and they include the following. First, his promotion of community-based behavioral health collaboration in education. Armed with his strong clinical and mental health training and practice over the last 20 years, Erich has provided hundreds of training sessions to pediatric hospitals, physician groups, allied medical organizations, community social service agencies, governmental agencies, behavioral health providers, and numerous professional associations related to interdisciplinary collaborative practices for youth with behavioral health involvement, both here in Ohio and across the country. These efforts have provided him with a level of expertise such that he is a co-author of a chapter on coordination with community and school behavioral health in the upcoming 7th edition of Best Practices in School Psychology. Second, his advocating safe and supportive schools for the LGBTQ community. Erich has been nationally requested as a trainer who has supported countless school districts in crafting or enhancing their affirming policies and practices. He created the first employee resource group in the Akron Public Schools called APS Pride that provides these students and personnel organizations with social justice and an emphasis on diversity, equality, and inclusive practices within his large urban school district. Third, Erich's multi-tiered behavioral health support during this COVID-19 pandemic. At the onset, Erich published daily, then weekly, community articles called Merkle's Mental Health Moment that have been shared throughout the Akron community and beyond on topics related to self-care, behavioral health, families, parenting, and education. Today, he continues those efforts and has authored over 300 such passages for the Akron Public Schools, the Cleveland Browns Stay in the Game attendance program, and many media outlets as a frequently requested contributor. Fourth, his legal and ethical training in the profession. Over the past decade, Erich has featured hundreds of training sessions related to helping school districts advance their comprehensive student supports with students who have physical or mental impairments under 504, ADA, or IDEA. His well-received training sessions have been featured throughout numerous statewide associations, including OPA, OSPA, the Ohio Social Worker Association, the Ohio Counseling Association, school districts, ESCs, all of Ohio's pediatric hospitals, locally within the Akron Public Schools, and many more. Fifth, his integrating student supports in child and adolescent risk assessment practices. Erich has provided comprehensive training throughout Ohio to school teams on risk assessment involving child maltreatment, suicide, and threat assessment. He is also recognized as an Ohio Department of Job and Family Services credentialed trainer on child maltreatment reporting, and his intervention and support has increased school psychologists' access to these governmental agencies. Because of his effort, he also oversees the Akron Public Schools risk assessment practice and provides consultation to hundreds of cases each year. Sixth, his consultation on such school psychological practices as litigated, high-profile, and clinically complex cases. Regular participants on our OSPA and OPA listservs, as well as broader social media outlets, know that Dr. Merkle is a regular contributor for our school psychology community in situations that involve complex clinical cases, litigation, and legal questions among our membership. He is regularly accessed throughout Ohio to help practitioners when they seek professional opinions, and he frequently serves as the immediate point of response when our community reaches out to OSPA and sometimes even ODE to provide us with evidence-based, legally defensible, and practical advice. He also serves his district as an in-house litigation and clinical expert involving IDEA due processes, OCR investigations, and supporting our school personnel involved in those situations. Seventh is advancing school psychology media outreach and serving as a professional ambassador. Erich has provided over 50 media interviews over local, regional, national, and syndicated newspaper, radio, television outlets. He also has the distinction as the only school psychologist who is both president of OSPA and president of OPA. OPA has twice recognized him with leadership awards, including the President's Award and Public Sector Psychologist of the Year. His work has reached APA and NASP, where he has contributed to efforts on Section 504 reform and served as an author on NASP's LGBTQ web pages. Eighth and finally, Erich's rich legacy of outstanding service to OSPA. He joined OSPA and its executive board 22 years ago. Within months of joining, he helped develop the association's first 2 listservs and our first website. He would later go on to serve in numerous leadership roles, including private practice chair, historian, Ken Akron regional representative, president, LGBTQ liaison, OPA liaison, and ex officio member of our faculty advisory committee. He still continues those latter 3 roles up to this day. Erich's many nominators had much praise to offer in regard to his outstanding contributions, and Brennan, our previous OSPA executive director, noted, Erich's dedication to the betterment of OSPA is well known and appreciated among all of our staff and membership. There has not been an issue in recent years where I failed to seek his advice. I knew he could be relied upon for a rapid response, providing expertise and wisdom that would help us frame a position for the public. I know of no one more deserving of this award, and I'm very honored to make this recommendation. Michael Ranney, the CEO of the Ohio Psychological Association, noted that Erich was the perfect president. He was steady and a thoughtful leader who guided us through the beginning of this pandemic. His strong leadership and important perspectives enabled us to thrive in the past few years. Tammy Brady, director of the Special Education Office in the Akron Public Schools, noted that Erich has, quote, become somewhat of a jack of all trades in our office. He shares his time and talents in a collaborative and professional manner within our school district and the larger community. He is always willing to step up to any challenge to do what is best for our students and our district. I am privileged to have him as part of my leadership team. Lisa Johnson, who coordinates services and programs across the entire district in support of students with very intensive behavioral and mental health needs, has partnered with Erich on a daily basis for more than a decade. She noted that Erich embodies the very finest qualities of excellence in school psychological service delivery. I'm very sure that OSPA had school psychologists like Erich in mind when they first thought to create this award. Speaking for myself for a moment, as some of you know, Erich and I have been colleagues in the Akron Public Schools in the past 15 years, and my daily comments notwithstanding, it really has been a pleasure to be his colleague. The last 3 years we have shared an office together. Many folks comment that we're kind of the odd couple because we have very different approaches to our shared work. In this election season, I'd like to note that 2 guys that are self-described as a democratic socialist and a traditional conservative can occupy a 10 by 15 room for 40 hours a week and not kill each other. We can still be productive and supportive colleagues and try to provide a witness to the idea that folks of good conscience can have their own closely held principles, but still work collaboratively to find the common good. To share a room with Erich is to share a room with Wikipedia. His standard score on the information subtest is well above 19. I'd estimate about 1,019. He can provide you with tax advice, hook up cutting-edge AV technology for your home theater, put you on a keto diet with instant results, jumpstart your car, cook a 9-course meal with all the fixings, and target the perfect holiday gift for your spouse. Now, sure, Erich can be too smart for his own good sometimes. Sure, there are some days where it just seems like he knows every damn thing. And sure, in virtual meetings, his verbal manifestos careen around our office at 75 plus decibels, and his relentless need to know and dominate every damn aspect of our profession can make me want to jump out of open window in an office that does not have any. And sure, there are days when I anxiously await the sweet release of death just to get 5 minutes away from him. Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah, Erich, okay. As this speech hopefully is detailed for you, he has had a remarkable heritage of contributions to OSPA and our shared profession. Erich often describes his role as, quote, giving psychology away. And by this he means there's a need for all of us to share our expertise with others in ways that help build their individual and systemic capacity to help our students. I've been a decades-long witness to his giving psychology away. He's been very thoughtful and generous in doing so. School psychology in Ohio, OSPA at large, and most importantly, the students and families we serve have all been tremendous beneficiaries of Erich's generosity. It is for all these reasons that the Executive Board of the Ohio School Psychologists Association is very proud to recognize Dr. Erich Merkle as our 2022 Ohio School Psychologist of the Year. Congratulations, Erich.
Well, good afternoon. I don't really know how I follow up that presentation there. It truly is just an unbelievable honor. Having had the privilege of presiding over this awards in different times in my leadership in OSPA, it's certainly humbling to be on the other side of the podium. So let me tell you a quick life story. If we go back to probably around this time in 1973, I'm sure it was a magical time for Velma and David. Well, okay, let's not go that far back. Let me go back probably to elementary. And at the time I was living in New Mexico, my mom developed cancer and she was no longer able to care for me. As a consequence, I was put into social service, put up for adoption. Eventually found my way to live with my father in Sandusky. Curiously, I was pretty depressed, and I was put into special education. A lot of people don't know that. I was actually in special education. When I make meaning of this today, I think I was probably destined at some point to become a school psychologist. Now, very quickly, it was pretty apparent I did not have a learning disability. I did not have probably a lot of different types of disability. I certainly was emotionally at a place of harm in my life. I was moved out of special education into honors courses, AP courses, and the rest was history. I thought I was going to go to med school, so in undergrad I tried to major in biology, chemistry, and math. If any of you here tried to major in chemistry, well, somewhere around the time you get into organic chemistry to physical chemistry, which is the calculus applications of chemistry, that was enough for me, and I could not have success. Eventually I found psychology, became a therapist after going to Kent State for my master's in mental health counseling and another master's in human development. Unfortunately, or fortunately, medical school did not work out. At the same time, neither did being a therapist. The long hours, the low pay, the emotional taxing just demands of the work took me to a place of trying to come up with the next chapter in life. Like so many of us, we found school psychology as a fortuitous accident. Most of us didn't start out in elementary or high school saying, you know, when I grow up, I want to be a school psychologist. Now, thankfully, we have the pioneering work of our early career committee, the Future School Psychologists of Ohio, that are starting to shift that narrative. In my case, I ended up applying to the Kent State School Psychology program and had the privilege of working with two of our lauded legends of school psychology, Professor Kathy Talesrow and Professor Kevin McLaughlin. Probably to this day, they still regret admitting me. I was on endless plans of correction, and I had to live in the shadow of Rob Kubik, who was the prodigal child of everything school psychology, where I seemingly did everything wrong in the program. However, one of the things that came about, as Rob mentioned, was getting instilled to create a website and a listserv for OSPA. And of course, if you know Kevin McLaughlin, he never asked permission. He basically said, here OSPA, here's Merkle, he's going to create this website and listserv. And that started really almost 23 years of experience with being a part of the OSPA board, except for a time around the fall of 2005 when Rob Kubik was president and I was fired from my position. Thankfully, though, in that dismissal, the website and the listserv were taken over much more competently by Jeff York, who continues that work today, and OSPA is much better for his contributions to that effort. In the field itself, I had a lot of supervisors really mentor and shepherd me around. If you know me, I'm not exactly the easiest person to mentor or shepherd. Usually I probably need a choker chain and a leash to get me to comply and do what I'm supposed to do. So I'm indebted to a couple clinical supervisors, including Sandra Gossett in Hudson City Schools, Dr. Rich Montanese and Trumbull County Educational Service Center, and then in Akron, we had Dr. Elizabeth Bard and Dr. Perry Clark. For some reason, Dr. Bard thought that she wanted to hire me and vetted me to come work in Akron. Probably yet another decision that she questions why she did that. Today, I have the real privilege of working in the leadership team in the Office of Special Education in Akron Public Schools, which is a whole new way for me to give psychology away. And that is my mantra, because I think part of our work as school psychologists is the idea that we are to give away the specialized knowledge that we have to support the children, the families, and the staff that we serve. That said, I'm deeply appreciative to have our director, Tammy Brady. Many of us have worked in education where we are managed or administered. Few of us have the opportunity to have a leader who mentors, cultivates, and really is such an outstanding role model to help us to be better versions of ourselves and at the same time be a friend. And so I am just almost tongue-tied when I say thank you, Tammy, for both your friendship, your mentoring, and your leadership, but at the same time allowing me to be a part of our leadership team. I also would like to remember my dear friend Lisa Johnson. Lisa and I share the work these days in supporting behavior mental health initiatives in the district, as well as supporting our students with significant social, emotional, and behavioral involvement. Lisa and I probably argue and fight practically all day long, every single day. There's also no one else I would enjoy doing that more with on a daily basis. I am deeply touched from Lisa and Tammy's thoughtful words in my nomination, but more so, it is such an honor and a privilege to have Lisa as a part of my social circle and a colleague and mentor that has taught me how to handle more than a few contentious, difficult meetings, and has also, in her way, taught me much more about mental health than even having a doctorate in school psychology afforded me. And then there's Dr. Kubik. So he did draw the short straw by having to have an office with me. But Dr. Kubik and I go back almost 22 years. And one of the things to know about Rob is his incredible charitable spirit. In fact, he, of course, being the prodigal student that he was, he finished his dissertation light years ahead of me, where I think I'm probably still working on my dissertation at some point. And Rob was like Amazon Prime as a dissertation editor. I'd give it to him, he'd drop it off at 4 o'clock in the morning. We did this for almost a year. It would just appear in my door, and he dutifully edited my dissertation, and I'm deeply appreciative for that. As well, there's been a couple times I've been in the hospital. Many of you know I struggle with some autoimmune concerns. Rob has never failed to show up and to sit with me in the hospital and be present, which is also a lesson for our work in school psychology, the importance of being present. I'd also like to remember my wife, Holly. Now, all of you can appreciate who know me, I'm not exactly the easiest person to be friends with sometimes. You can imagine being married to me is probably even that much worse. That said, I very much appreciate Holly for just being a companion, a partner, and a best friend to me. So thank you very much, Holly, for your support. And, of course, many of you know I'm obsessed with our furry children, and so our dogs are our children, and I certainly couldn't imagine not thanking Penny. I also like to remember my mother-in-law and my father-in-law, Mary Lou and Larry, perhaps for the best present ever. Today is my father-in-law's birthday, and happy birthday, Larry. I can't imagine a better birthday present than honoring me, of course. They have been tirelessly supportive themselves, showing up to various events, offering their love and their support as my family. I continue to appreciate them every single day. And to my dad, who still doesn't know what the hell I do, I'm sure, at this point. He does know I get around, I do things, and he continues to tell me how proud he is of my efforts. And then to each of you in OSPA. You know, I look across this room, and I know a vast majority of you. I thank each of you for allowing me to have a place in this organization, finding a community. I thank you for reaching out to me or allowing me to reach out to you. Each of you in different ways have inspired me as a leader, as a practitioner, and helped me learn so much more about school psychology and psychology than I could ever imagine. All of you I value as colleagues and friends. Today I'm deeply humbled by OSPA's recognition. Even though I have been recognized by OPA and APA, there's something very different when it's the community of school psychology recognizing you. I hope each of you can use this as a moment to find your passion in school psychology, as I've been so fortunate to do. Through being able to kind of, over the years, manipulate my role into one where I can do a lot of consultation and really work as a bit of a clinical consultant, I have found peace and happiness in school psychology. I know these are tenuous times for all of us. Rushing caseloads, difficult families, difficult staff. Some of us are struggling with burnout. I appreciate that. I don't know what your passion will be in school psychology, whether it's testing, consultation, counseling, administration. Perhaps it's like me, getting called out in our union newspapers a couple times. But all of you have so much to give, our children, our family, and our staff. Thank you for supporting me. The work that all of us do is vitally important. If you find me at the bar, the first round's on me. I'm humbled, and I thank you